Most people think they're ready to retire until they discover, sometimes a little too late, that they've been missing one key number that controls everything in retirement. Not their net worth, not their social security estimate, and not their investment balance. Just one key number. If you don't calculate it correctly before you retire, you could run out of money perhaps earlier than you plan to. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to calculate your retirement income gap, step by step, and why this single calculation determines whether you retire with confidence or you stay stuck working longer than perhaps you'd like to. I recently sat down with a couple. They're both in their early 60s, planning to retire in a couple years. They've done everything right. Saved about $1 million, had no debts, a fully paid off house. On paper, everything looks great. We're still nervous because they ran one calculation and we discovered they had about a $42,000 annual income gap that appeared. They have no idea what this figure was before and how it was going to work with their retirement. Here's what made it more serious. They hadn't thought about this figure before retirement and understood how this interacted with the portfolio. There's a chance that it could have went longer and bigger and ended up depleting their portfolio before they wanted to no longer be retired. But not because of bad investments or reckless spending, but because of this one number nobody had ever walked them through. That's why this matters. And that's exactly what we were going to fix here for them and also look at this for you. So let's build this calculation from the ground up. Really, there are 6 steps overall, with each step building on the last. Step 1 will build your personal balance sheet. So before we talk about income, we need to clarify and have clarity on what you actually have. Most people feel ready to retire but have never organized all their numbers in one place. So let's start here. Let's take a piece of paper and list everything that you own: investment accounts, retirement accounts like 401ks, IRAs, Roth IRAs, and cash or savings. Then let's list right below it everything that you owe. We can write down any mortgage balances, loans, any outstanding debts or liabilities. Now, here's one thing that's critical distinction of most people often miss. So we're not using your home in the calculation with the assets, really on the overall asset side, because this money in your home isn't really going to be used to produce income in retirement, right? Because we don't want to have to sell your house to eat or draw a home equity line to pay for groceries. So we can identify that figure, but we're not going to use it as the overall part of the calculation. So most people assume net worth determines retirement readiness. It really doesn't. Income, on the other hand, is a key component that often does help us understand retirement readiness. So step 2 is let's build out now your retirement income statement. So this is the other side of the piece of paper, and we'll shift here and understand what's coming in and what's going out. And this is really where clarity begins. So first, we'll list your expenses. What will it realistically cost you to live in retirement? Let's try to make this not a guess, but let's kind of work through and understand actual figures around housing, healthcare, travel, lifestyle, unfortunately, taxes, medical, everything else. Retirement is not about surviving, it's about thriving and living the way you actually want to live with purpose in retirement. And unfortunately, people consistently underestimate this figure, the expenses in retirement, so be sure to build in some margin here. Give yourself enough room. Below that, we can list your guaranteed income sources. We can look at Social Security. About a third of people still have pensions and any other income streams that will keep showing up reliably regardless of what the market does. Add those income sources up, and the quick calculation is this. We'll now subtract your guaranteed income monthly from your expenses, and that number helps us see a key term here. This is calculating your income gap. So step 3, let's make this into a real example, put some numbers around it. So let's put actual numbers of this and say you need $80,000 per year to live. This is the retirement that you're excited about, want to have. $80,000 gets you there. Social Security covers $40,000 of that. So now you have a $40,000 annual income gap. That's the amount that your investments need to generate every single year for the rest of your retirement. Most people kind of stop here. They know that gap exists, they assume their portfolio can handle it, so they kind of move on. And that's often why so many retirement plans can quietly fail over time. Because knowing the gap is only kind of half the equation, The second half is determining whether your portfolio can actually sustain it for retirement, which is often 20, 25, 30, maybe even 35 or 40 years. Step 4, identify our liquid assets. So go back over and look at your balance sheet, and let's isolate those accounts we can realistically draw from to generate our retirement income. 401k accounts, IRAs, Roth IRAs, brokerage accounts, cash savings, any of those sort of accounts. In our example, those all total up to be $1 million. So then step 5, let's calculate now your annual withdrawal rate percentage. This connects the dots in which we take your annual income gap and divide it by your total liquid assets. So in our example here, we're taking $40,000 that we need to live off of. We're dividing that by the $1 million that we have in liquid assets. And in this example, that equals 4%. That's your starting withdrawal rate. And this is the number that determines, in a lot of ways, whether your money will last throughout retirement or whether your retirement will fully actually work, or do you need to make adjustments before you get there or make adjustments while you're in retirement. As a general benchmark, if you're planning for about a 30-year retirement, a withdrawal rate of about 4 to 5% or below puts you in a very sustainable territory. If you're planning for a longer retirement, retiring really early, then you may want a lower withdrawal rate to begin. And likewise, if you're working longer and have a shorter timeline, then you also have more flexibility and can have a higher withdrawal rate to start with. Most people guess at this number, but calculating this provides retirees with confidence. So step 6 is what most people actually missed after doing the calculation. Even if your withdrawal rate looks acceptable on paper, it doesn't mean that it's optimized for your unique plan. This is because the income gap calculation is just the foundation. It doesn't account for everything that sits on top of that calculation. Optimized Social Security timing is one key component. Your tax strategy, the order in which you withdraw from different investment accounts at different times. How about your healthcare costs and Medicare planning? Maybe Roth conversions and taking advantage of low tax brackets before required minimum distributions beginning in your 70s. Each of these can meaningfully affect how much pressure your portfolio is actually under, even when the headline withdrawal rate looks just fine. We worked with a client recently who had a 4.2% withdrawal rate. Looks very reasonable on the surface, but after coordinating Social Security timing, restructuring his withdrawal sequence to manage taxes more efficiently, we were able to reduce that effective withdrawal rate pressure from 4.2% to under 3.5%. We can use tax planning to optimize where to draw from so that he's able to retain a lot of his liquid assets, since we use some of these when we fund lifestyle expenses until starting Social Security down the road. So same expenses, but a lower income gap. And another key was the higher Social Security benefits would pass to his wife if he were to pass before she did. Overall, this was a much better strategy with significantly better long-term outcomes. That's the difference between a plan that's technically functional and one that's genuinely optimized. So let me summarize the full framework so you have it very clearly. Number 1, build your balance sheet, assets and liabilities or debts. Number 2, build your income statement, which is understanding your retirement expenses and your guaranteed income in retirement. Number 3, calculate your income gap. This is the shortfall between your guaranteed income coming in and your expenses going out that your investment accounts must fill. Number 4, identify your liquid assets, the portfolio that has to do the work, the engine of your retirement plan. And number 5, calculate your withdrawal rate and compare it against a sustainable benchmark. 5 steps here with the 6th step to then optimize your overall plan. Understanding one key figure and calculation that changes everything. Once you have that number and you know it and it's accurate, something shifts. You stop guessing, you stop hoping the math works out. You know whether it does or whether it won't. And if it doesn't, you have enough time now to fix it. That's what this calculation provides you. Not just a number, but clarity. And clarity is where retirement confidence actually comes from. And this is exactly what we do for clients at Cornerstone Wealth Planning. We can build a one-page financial plan where we connect all these pieces. They come together clearly so you can have the full picture before you make one of the most important financial transitions of your life. If you want help calculating your own income gap and making sure this plan holds up, then click to the link to the description to schedule a call with our team. Because if you skip this step, everything else in retirement plan is built on a guess. And guesses don't create confidence, they create risk. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.